The man took out a folded card from his pocket. It wasn't shiny or expensive looking. It was old, creased, and soft around the edges. He placed it on the table gently. "This," he said quietly, "is the first business card I ever printed. I made it when I had nothing. No money, no connections. No one believed in me. I printed these in a small copy shop because I wanted to convince myself I could build something." The kid reached out and touched the card lightly. It was simple, almost too simple to belong to a millionaire. "You kept it all these years," the kid said. "Yes. Every time I felt like giving up, I looked at it. It reminded me of the person I used to be, the one who didn't have anything but kept going anyway." The kid nodded slowly. He understood things like that. He knew how something small could hold feelings bigger than words. "I want you to have it," the man said suddenly. The kid's hand froze. "What?" "I want you to keep it," the man repeated. "Not because you need it, but because I want you to know that even people who seem successful now started with doubts, fears, and empty pockets. You're already far ahead of where I was." The kid looked down at the card again, confusion and gratitude mixing inside him. "Are you sure?" he whispered. "Absolutely." The kid took a long breath and accepted the card with both hands. He held it carefully, as if he were afraid it might crumble. "Thank you," he said softly. The moment lingered in the air. It was simple, but meaningful. Then the man leaned slightly closer. "I was also hoping," he said carefully, "that we could work together, but not in the way people usually mean. I'm not offering you a job. I'm not offering to buy anything from you. I'm asking if we can learn side by side. You teach me how to see things the way you do, and maybe I can help you grow in ways you choose." The kid stared at him, surprised again. Adults always wanted something from him, always. But this man was offering to learn instead of take. "Why me?" the kid asked quietly. The man smiled. "Because you taught me more in 1 hour than most people have taught me in 10 years. And I don't want that lesson to end." The kid looked down, feeling something warm rise in his chest. He wasn't sure if it was pride or relief. "Maybe both." "Okay," he said, barely above a whisper. "We can try." The man let out a breath he had been holding. "Thank you, truly." They spent the next hour talking. Not teaching, not demonstrating, just talking. The man asked gentle questions about the kid's way of seeing the world, and the kid asked questions about what it felt like to build something from nothing. Their worlds were different, but the more they spoke, the more they found pieces that connected. At one point, the kid said, "Sometimes I feel like people only listen to me when they need something." The man grew quiet. "I'm sorry if I made you feel that way yesterday." "You didn't," the kid said quickly. "Yesterday was different. But before that, I've met others who made me feel small." He paused. "You're not doing that now." The man's expression softened. "I won't do it ever again." The kid smiled just a little. Later, the man asked, "Do you want to see the place where I started? I can take you there one day. It's nothing fancy. Just a small building where I made my first deal." The kid hesitated. "Why me?" he repeated. "Because," the man said gently, "you remind me of who I used to be and who I wish I had beside me back then. Someone to remind me that seeing the world differently isn't a weakness. It's a strength." The kid lowered his gaze. "People don't always understand that." "I understand it now," the man replied. They sat in silence again. But this time, it felt peaceful. As the sky outside shifted from orange to soft pink, the man stood. "I'll be here tomorrow," he said. "Not to test you. Not to question you. Just to show up. Like you do." The kid nodded. "I'll be here too." The man paused at the door. "One more thing." The kid looked up. "You don't owe me anything," the man said. "Not a performance, not an explanation, not a promise. I'm here because I want to be, not because I expect something from you. Remember that." The kid's voice was soft when he answered, "Thank you for saying that." The door closed behind the man, and the kid sat alone with the old business card resting safely in his hands. He traced the faded letters slowly, feeling a quiet connection form between them. A connection built not on power or money, But on understanding, for the first time in a long time, the kid felt like he wasn't standing on the outside of life looking in. Someone saw him, really saw him, and wanted to walk beside him. Not ahead or behind. And as the sky deepened into evening, he whispered to himself, "Maybe this is the beginning of something good." The morning was calm, with soft light filling the community center through the long windows. It had become a familiar place for the kid and the millionaire, almost like a small world of their own where titles and age didn't matter as much. The kid walked inside with a gentle tiredness in his step. He had been thinking a lot the night before, mostly about how everything had changed so quickly. One day he was sitting alone with his notebook, and the next he was talking to someone who once doubted him, someone who now wanted to learn from him. He sat at his usual table, placing his notebook down gently. It was a habit he had grown used to, as if opening it helped him open himself too. He ran his fingers along the edges of the pages. The old business card the millionaire had given him was tucked safely inside like a bookmark, and even seeing its corner made him feel something warm in his chest. He didn't wait long before the door opened, and the millionaire stepped in. He carried no briefcase, no assistants, no stack of papers. Just himself, wearing a relaxed shirt and a soft smile. "Good morning," the man said. "Morning," the kid replied quietly. The man sat beside him like he had the day before, the chair sliding gently over the floor. For a moment, they simply sat there in a comfortable silence. The kid had never expected to reach a point where silence with an adult could feel peaceful rather than heavy. "I wasn't sure you'd come," the kid admitted after a while. The man turned to him. "Why's that?" The kid shrugged. "Sometimes grown-ups say things one day, then forget them the next." The man looked at him thoughtfully, as if trying to understand something deeper. "I didn't forget," he said softly. "I meant every word. And I'm here because I want to be here, not out of obligation." The kid looked down, nodding slowly. "I'm glad." The man leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "I've been thinking," he began carefully, "about what we talked about yesterday, about learning from each other. And I realized something: your gift isn't just about noticing things. It's about understanding people at a level many of us forget how to reach." The kid blinked, unsure how to answer. "You make people feel seen," the man continued. "That's a rare thing." The kid looked down at his hands. "Sometimes it's hard." "Why?" He hesitated. "Because when you see things people hide, it can be lonely. It feels like holding stories that aren't yours but still weigh on you." The man nodded slowly, absorbing every word. "Shouldn't have to carry things alone," he said gently. For a long moment, they both sat quietly, listening to the soft hum of the building. It felt like the room itself was breathing with them. Then the kid opened his notebook, flipping through pages filled with neat lines and scribbles that only he fully understood. He stopped at one page and turned the notebook so the man could see. "This page," the kid said, "is about what comes next. Not for me. For both of us." The man leaned closer, eyes softening. "What do you mean?" he asked. The kid tapped the page gently. "People think gifts are meant to be used alone, like you're supposed to carry it and show it and do everything by yourself. But maybe gifts are supposed to be shared with people who help you grow. Not take from you, not use you, just grow with you." The man looked at him with something between surprise and admiration. "That's a wise thing to say," he whispered. The kid shrugged lightly. "It's just how I feel." The man looked at the notebook again, then back at the kid. "So what do you want next to look like?" The kid hesitated, unsure of his words. "I don't want to hide anymore. I want to help people. Not in a big showy way. Just quietly. The way I know how, but I don't want to do it alone." The man's voice softened. "You don't have to." The kid looked up, eyes meeting the man's. "Will you help me?" "Not control things. Not plan everything. Just help me do good things for people." The man's answer was immediate and sincere. "Yes." Without question. "I'm with you." He paused. "However you want this to go, I'll follow your lead." The kid felt something lift off his chest. Something heavy he didn't even realize he was still carrying. "Thank you," he whispered. They spent the next hour planning in the simplest way possible. No big ideas. No huge schedules. They talked about forming a small group at the community center. Something where kids and adults could come together and talk openly without judgment. The kid didn't want to be the center of it. He wanted everyone to feel equal. The man suggested bringing a few people who knew how to guide conversations gently. The kid nodded, liking the idea. They talked about creating a space where people could write, draw, speak, or just sit quietly. Not everyone wants to be seen right away, the kid said. Some people need time. Then we'll give them time, the man replied. They kept talking until the sun rose higher and the room grew brighter. People walked by now and then, noticing the two of them sitting close. Their conversation deep and warm. After a while, the man reached into his pocket again this time, pulling out a plain folded sheet of paper. The sun had just started to rise when the kid woke up that morning, the soft light slipping through the thin curtains of the small room. There was nothing unusual about the day at first. Birds chirped outside. Neighbor's old motorbike coughed to life. The kid's guardian called from the kitchen, reminding them not to skip breakfast again. Everything felt ordinary, familiar, predictable. But deep down, the kids sensed something different was coming, even if they didn't know what it was. The community center was quiet when the kid arrived, carrying the same small backpack used every day. This was the place where the kid felt most at peace. It was where they practiced their special gift, something they didn't talk about much because people usually didn't take them seriously. Adults would smile politely or change the subject. Some would chuckle under their breath, thinking it was just a child's imagination. But the kid knew the gift was real. It always had been. Inside the center, a few other kids were talking loudly near the old vending machine. A staff member was sorting papers at the front desk. The kid nodded politely and went straight to the back room, where a simple wooden table stood waiting. The kid placed the backpack on it, pulled out a few things, and began preparing quietly. That was when the door opened again. A group of adults walked in, all dressed neatly, their steps confident. But one person caught everyone's attention, immediately a well-known millionaire from the city. People rarely saw someone of his status in this small community. He walked with a kind of certainty, the kind that came from years of being respected, admired, and listened to without question. The staff member rushed over to greet him politely, almost nervously, but the millionaire barely noticed. His eyes scanned the room, taking in the old chairs, the worn-out floors, the faded posters on the wall. He didn't look impressed. Behind him, his assistant followed with a tablet in hand. Typing quickly to keep up. "I heard there's a kid here with some kind of rare gift," the millionaire said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. His tone wasn't curious. It wasn't warm. It was closer to doubtful, like someone expecting a rumor to fall apart the moment he examined it. The staff member nodded carefully. "Yes, sir. A lot of people here think the kid is very talented. Would you like to meet?" He was already walking across the room. The kid looked up as he approached, unsure why a man wearing a suit worth more than the entire community center was suddenly standing in front of them. "So you're the one, everyone keeps talking about," the millionaire said, folding his arms. The kid simply nodded. "You don't look like someone with a special gift," he continued, almost amused. "But I suppose that's what they all say." A few people nearby exchanged uncomfortable glances. The kid remained calm, though a quiet heaviness settled in their chest. "What exactly is this gift of yours?" the millionaire asked. The kid hesitated, not because they didn't want to answer, but because they knew how this usually went. "It's something I've practiced for many years," the kid said softly. "I can understand things in a way most people don't. I can see patterns others might miss. I can solve things quickly, even things adults struggle with." The millionaire raised an eyebrow as if hearing a joke. "That's it? Patterns? Solutions?" The kid didn't argue. Instead, they opened the backpack again and placed a small stack of papers on the table. "These are some of the things I've worked on," the kid said. "People bring me problems sometimes. I try to help." Millionaire picked up one paper and scanned it carelessly, his expression shifting between boredom and disbelief. "You expect me to believe you figured this out?" said the kid, nodded quietly with a short laugh. The millionaire dropped the paper back onto the table. "I've met experts, professionals, trained specialists," he said, "and you want me to believe a kid can do what they do? You must think I'm easy to impress." The assistant shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Some of the other kids watched from a distance, whispering. The staff member stepped forward, trying to ease the situation. "Sir, maybe if you let the kid demonstrate, that's exactly what I'm here for," the millionaire said. "A demonstration. Show me this so-called gift." The kid took a slow breath. They weren't scared. They had nothing to prove. But they also understood that moments like this didn't happen often. If they didn't show the truth now, the millionaire would leave thinking even less of them. "All right," the kid said simply. The millionaire sat down, leaning back as if expecting the whole situation to be a waste of time. The kid pulled out another piece of paper, and another, arranging them carefully. These weren't regular problems. They were things people from the community had brought, questions, puzzles, challenges, hoping the kid could help them understand. The millionaire watched with a mix of curiosity and impatience. The kid began explaining slowly, showing how they saw patterns in places most people didn't, how they connected details instantly, how they read through ideas with ease, how they saw solutions that seemed hidden to others. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, but it was real. The millionaire leaned forward slightly, surprised by the kid's calmness. "Anyone could memorize this," he said. The kid shook their head. "It's not memorizing, it's understanding." "Prove it then," the millionaire challenged. "If your gift is real, solve something new, something you haven't seen before." He looked back at his assistant. "Give me something complex." The assistant hesitated. "Sir, these aren't just give it to me." The assistant pulled up a file on the tablet and handed the screen to the millionaire. It was something advanced, detailed, the kind of thing only trained professionals usually handled. He placed it in front of the kid. "Here," he said. "If your gift is real, show me." For a moment, the room went completely silent. The kids studied the information. Their eyes moved slowly, then faster, then paused. They were calm, steady, focused. The hum of the old ceiling fan filled the quiet as everyone waited. Finally, after a long moment, the kid looked up. "I can explain it," they said. The millionaire smirked. "Go ahead then." The kid began speaking, not with arrogance, but with clarity. Every detail was explained, every part broken down in simple steps. The assistant's eyes widened. The staff member whispered something under their breath. Even the other kids leaned in, stunned. The millionaire's smile slowly faded. The more the kid spoke, the more the truth became impossible to ignore. This wasn't luck. This wasn't guessing. This wasn't memoras. This was genuine talent, real, natural, untrained, yet sharper than anything the millionaire expected. By the time the kid finished, the millionaire's expression had changed completely. His eyebrows were lifted. His posture was stiff. His confidence had slipped away without him even noticing. He cleared his throat, trying to hide the shock creeping into his voice. "And you're certain about this?" he asked. The kid nodded. The assistant whispered, "Sir, they're right." The millionaire sat back, suddenly unsure of himself. He had walked into the room expecting to expose a childish trick. He had expected to laugh, shake his head, and walk out feeling superior. Instead, I found himself face to face with the truth he hadn't prepared for. The kid was gifted, genuinely gifted, and he had doubted them from the moment he arrived. A quiet discomfort settled on his shoulders, heavy and unexpected. He glanced at the kid, so calm, so patient, so open-handed. A thought crossed his mind that he couldn't shake. Maybe I judged too quickly. Maybe he had made a mistake. And in that moment, for the first time that day, he felt a flicker of something he hadn't expected at all. Regret. The room stayed still as the weight of that realization settled in. The kid didn't gloat, didn't smirk, didn't say "I told you so." He simply waited, quiet and respectful, while the millionaire tried to gather himself, and that was only the beginning of everything that was about to unfold. The air in the community center felt different the next morning, as if the walls themselves remembered what had happened the day before. The kid arrived early, hoping for a quiet moment alone, but news traveled fast in small places. People who never used to notice the kid now watched with curious eyes. Some smiled politely. Others whispered among themselves, trying to understand. how someone so young could do something even trained adults struggled with. The kid didn't mind the curiosity, but they did mind the attention. They weren't used to it. They had spent most of their life being underestimated, overlooked, or brushed aside. Suddenly being noticed felt strange, almost uncomfortable. The kid preferred quiet corners and simple routines, not rooms full of people waiting to see what they would do next. Still, the kid walked inside, trying to stay calm, in the back of the room. The staff member from yesterday waved and said, "He's coming back today." The kid's steps slowed. "Who?" The staff member gave a small, knowing smile. "The millionaire." The kid felt their stomach tighten. They had hoped yesterday's moment would fade away and things would go back to normal. Normal seemed far away now. Before the kid could respond, the doors opened, and the millionaire walked in again, this time without the same careless confidence. His assistant followed closely behind, but something was different in the way they both moved. They didn't walk as if the room belonged to them. They walked as if they were entering someone else's space. The kid watched quietly as the millionaire approached. "Good morning," the millionaire said, his tone far softer than the day before. The kid nodded politely. "Good morning," the millionaire cleared his throat. "I looked over what you explained yesterday. I talked to some people who specialize in this kind of work." He paused, searching for the right words. "They confirmed that you were right." The kid didn't react with pride or excitement. Instead, they simply said, "I'm glad it helped." That answer caught the millionaire off guard. He had expected the kid to brag or glow with pride. But the kid remained humble, almost shy. "I want to understand more," the millionaire said. "If you're willing to show me," the kid agreed with a small nod. The millionaire pulled a chair and sat down, not with arrogance this time, but with genuine curiosity. His assistant stayed near the wall, taking notes. The kid opened the backpack again, pulling out papers, notebooks, and small tools that looked simple but meaningful. People began gathering again, sensing something important was happening. "Before we start today," the millionaire said, "I want to ask something." The kid waited. "How did you learn all of this?" he asked. "Who taught you? Where did this come from?" The kid paused, unsure how much to share. It wasn't just one moment. The kid began, slowly. "When I was younger, I used to help my guardian with small things, fixing things, solving little problems. I noticed patterns without trying to. I could understand things quickly, even things adults said were too hard for kids." The millionaire listened closely. "I didn't think it was special at first," the kid continued. "I just thought it was normal. But people started bringing me questions. They would ask me to look at something and I'd help them. I didn't charge anything. I didn't want anything. I just liked helping." The millionaire nodded thoughtfully. "So this gift, it wasn't taught to you?" The kid shook their head. "No, it just happened." There was a quiet sincerity in the kid's voice that made even the people standing nearby feel something shift. The millionaire sat back. "Then let me test something again." "Only if you're willing," the kid agreed. The millionaire opened his briefcase and pulled out another problem, this one even more challenging. Something he had received from a partner company earlier that morning. Something that experts had been debating for weeks. He placed the documents gently in front of the kid. "Take your time," he said. But the kid didn't need time. They studied the papers, eyes moving slowly at first, then faster as the pieces of the puzzle started connecting in their mind. Everyone watched in silence as the kid traced through the information with one finger, as though following an invisible pathway that only they could see. Minutes passed. The kid finally looked up. "I know how it works," the kid said simply. The millionaire leaned forward quickly. "Explain it to me." And the kid did step by step, clearly, patiently. They explained not just the solution but the reasons behind it. The patterns hidden inside the problem. The connections others had missed by the time they finished. The millionaire looked stunned again, but this time it wasn't disbelief. It was admiration mixed with regret. His assistant spoke before he could. "Sir, this explanation is correct. Completely correct." The millionaire's breath caught for a moment. He turned to the kid. "Do you realize what you just solved?" The kid gave a small shrug. I only understood what it meant. The millionaire stared at the kid, his expression changing slowly. Something deeper was settling in him. Something. He wasn't used to feeling respect and guilt for ever doubting them. But the kid wasn't finished. There's something else, the kid added, pointing at a part of the document. If you follow this path instead of the one written here, you'll save a lot of time, and you won't risk losing anything. The assistant's eyes widened again. How did you see that? The kid shrugged again, almost embarrassed. It was just there. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then the millionaire exhaled slowly. I should have listened yesterday. The kid didn't respond. The millionaire looked down at the papers, then back at the kid. I doubted you. I treated you like you were pretending. I was wrong. Still, the kid didn't say anything. They didn't want to embarrass him. They didn't want to make him feel worse. I want to understand your gift better, the millionaire said quietly. Not to use it. Not to take it. Just to learn from you if you'll let me. The kid nodded slowly. I can show you what I know. The millionaire smiled softly. Almost humbly, but something unexpected happened next. A group of local community members approached, some of them carrying old papers or damaged items. One spoke up, saying, If you're helping today, maybe the kid can look at this too. The kid looked at the millionaire, waiting to see if he would object. But the millionaire raised a hand gently and said, Go ahead. They were here before me. It's for the first time. People saw something different in him, a softer side, a respectful side. The kid spent the next hour helping people one by one, solving small problems, explaining things simply, giving clear answers. The millionaire stood nearby, watching the entire time, observing the kid's patience with others, each time the kid helped someone. The millionaire's regret grew a little deeper. He had spent years shaking hands with powerful people, sitting at large tables, making decisions that moved companies and shaped cities. But somehow in this small room, he realized he had overlooked something important: the value of quiet, unpolished brilliance. After everyone had been helped, the millionaire pulled out a chair and sat across from the kid again. I want to know more about you, he said softly. Not your gift too, the kid blinked. Surprised, nobody has ever asked me that, the kid said. Well, the millionaire replied with a slight smile. I'm asking now. The kid hesitated, looking down at their hands. I'm not that interesting. That's not true, the millionaire said. People don't get gifts like yours for no reason. People don't help others without wanting anything in return, unless they've lived a certain way. Kid thought for a moment, then, slowly, they began to speak. They explained what life had been like growing up, how they often felt invisible, how teachers didn't always know what to do with someone who learned differently, how they were sometimes told to stop thinking too much when they were simply trying to understand things. The millionaire listened closely, expression serious. The kid talked about how their guardian always encouraged them, even when others didn't, how they practiced alone, trying to make sense of everything that came so naturally, and most people didn't believe me when I said I could do this, the kid said quietly. The millionaire felt that sentence hit him like a wait. He looked at the kid for a long moment before saying softly, I'm sorry for being one of them. The kid looked up. Surprised? You don't owe me anything, the kid said. No, the millionaire replied. But I owe you an apology. Their eyes met, one filled with humility, the other with quiet forgiveness. The assistant stepped forward. Sir, if I may, perhaps the kid can help with the project your team struggled with last month. The millionaire shook his head gently. Not today. Today isn't about work. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Today, he continued, is about understanding the kid I underestimated.
Ow.
The room grew silent again. Not tense this time, but warm. The millionaire stood up slowly. Would you walk with me? The kid agreed, and together they stepped outside. The sunlight washed over them as they walked slowly down the sidewalk next to the center. The millionaire spoke softly. I spent years thinking success only came from people with the right schools, the right connections, the right age, the right background. But seeing you, it changes something. The kid didn't know what to say, so they stayed quiet. "You taught me something yesterday," the millionaire continued. "You taught me something again today. And I think there's much more I need to learn from you." Walked a little farther until they reached the corner of the street. The millionaire looked at the kid with a sincerity that surprised even himself. "You have a gift," he said, "a real one. And I want to help you grow it, not control it, not take credit, just help you use it in ways that can change your life." The kid looked up, unsure whether the offer was real. "Why?" the kid asked softly. "Because the millionaire said, I made a mistake. And now that I see who you truly are, I don't want to make it again." The wind blew gently between them, carrying the weight of everything that had happened. The kid didn't answer right away. The room felt different the next morning. As if the walls themselves remembered what had happened the day before, the kid arrived early, just like he always did. Walking in with slow steps and holding the same small notebook he kept close to him. He didn't look nervous, but there was something new in the way he carried himself, maybe a bit more careful, maybe a bit more guarded. He paused inside the doorway, scanning the room as if trying to guess what kind of day it would turn into. The chairs were still arranged the same way. The sunlight still landed in the usual soft angle against the floor, yet he could tell things had shifted. Yesterday, the millionaire had watched him closely, tested him, doubted him, and then reacted with a kind of shock that the kid still didn't fully understand. He walked to his usual seat, placed his notebook on the table, and took a quiet breath. He wasn't the type to chase attention, and he didn't want the events from yesterday to make people look at him differently. But deep down, he knew the attention was coming, whether he wanted it or not. Faint footsteps echoed from the hallway. The kid didn't turn at first. He thought it was one of the staff members. But when the footsteps grew slower, more deliberate, he lifted his eyes, and there he was. The millionaire. He wasn't dressed like he had been the day before. Today he wore simpler clothes, almost like he wanted to blend in. No expensive jacket, no loud watch, no air of someone who expected the world to move aside for him. His expression was quieter too, thoughtful, almost cautious. He stopped a few steps from the kid and hesitated. That alone was enough to make the kid look up fully. Yesterday, the man spoke like someone who always had the last word. Today, he looked like someone searching for the right words. "I'm glad you're here," the man said, though his voice carried uncertainty. The kid nodded politely. He didn't know what to say. Adults often came with plans. Some wanted to test him, others wanted to criticize him, and a few wanted to use him. He had met so many different kinds that he learned early not to assume intentions. The man pulled out a chair but didn't sit. Instead, he looked at the kid with a seriousness that felt heavier than any challenge from the day before. "I didn't treat you right yesterday," he said softly. The kid blinked. He hadn't expected that. "You didn't have to apologize," the kid replied, his voice gentle. "I do," the man said, shaking his head. "I judged you before I even let you speak. That was wrong." Silence filled the space between them, not cold, just thoughtful. The kid didn't know how to respond. No adult had ever apologized to him in such a sincere way before. Most simply moved on without looking back. "I didn't think someone your age could do what you did," the man continued. His gaze dropped to the notebook on the table. "I should have listened, instead of assuming. I'm sorry." The kid lowered his eyes for a moment. He wasn't angry about yesterday. He was used to being underestimated, but hearing the apology stirred something small and warm inside him. Maybe relief. Maybe understanding. "It's okay," he finally said. "People don't always believe me. They should," the man replied instantly. The kid glanced up with surprise. The man stepped back slightly, as if giving him space. "Yesterday, you showed me something that I can't explain. Something real. Something powerful. And I want to understand it the right way this time." He let out a slow breath. "If you'll let me." The kid's fingers tapped quietly against the notebook. He wasn't sure what the man meant yet, but he could feel that the tone had changed. The man wasn't here to challenge him. He wasn't here to doubt him. He wasn't here to prove anything. He was here to listen. "What do you want to understand?" the kid asked. The man gave a small smile, not the confident kind he used the day before. but a real one, slow and hesitant. "Everything you're willing to share," he replied. The kid thought about it. He didn't like showing off, and he definitely didn't like being treated like a project or a miracle. But something about the man's voice felt different today. Not demanding. Not entitled. Just honest. "Okay," the kid said quietly. "I can show you something." The man finally sat down. The kid opened his notebook, flipping to a page filled with small markings. They looked simple at first glance, just lines and shapes arranged in neat rows. But each mark meant something to him, something he had learned through practice and patience. "Yesterday," the kid said, "you asked me to show you what I can do, but you didn't really want to see it." He shifted the notebook so the man could get a better look. "Today, I think you actually do." The millionaire swallowed lightly, leaning closer. "I do," he whispered. The kid pointed to one of the markings. "This one isn't hard, but it's important. It's about noticing things not with your eyes, but with your understanding." He closed his notebook again and placed it to the side. "May I show you something without the notebook?" he asked. "Of course," the man replied. The kid took a slow breath, closed his eyes, and let the room grow quiet. He had learned long ago that silence was not just empty space. It was where details came alive, where thoughts slowed enough for him to see patterns others missed. The man watched him closely, but respectfully. After a few moments, the kid opened his eyes again. "You're carrying a question," he said softly. "But you're afraid to ask it." The man froze. He hadn't spoken about the question. He hadn't hinted at it. He hadn't even allowed himself to think of it clearly. Yet the kid sensed it anyway. "How did you?" The man whispered. "You don't have to say it," the kid replied. "I already know it's not about me. It's about you." The man looked down, his expression tightening. He didn't expect to feel exposed so easily. "And you're not a bad person for doubting yesterday," the kid said. "You just didn't want to be wrong. A lot of people are scared of being wrong." The man slowly lifted his gaze. "But today," the kid added, "you showed up again. That counts." Those words hit the man harder than he expected. The kid wasn't trying to comfort him. He was simply telling the truth the man hadn't even considered. "May I ask something?" The kid said. "Anything," the man replied. "Why did you come back?" The man hesitated, searching his thoughts. "Because," he said slowly, "I realized I wasn't just doubting you. I was doubting myself too. I didn't want to see something real if it didn't fit into how I thought the world worked." He let out a shaky breath, and that felt unfair to both of us. The kid nodded. "Thank you for telling me." The man leaned back in his chair, feeling something unfamiliar, humility mixed with relief. "So," he said gently, "will you teach me? Or at least explain it?" The kid looked at him carefully. "I can show you," he said, "but you have to promise one thing." "What is it?" the man asked. "Don't try to control it. Don't try to use it. Just watch. Just learn." The man nodded. "I promise." The kid reached into his backpack and pulled out a small folded paper. When he unfolded it, there was a simple drawing, nothing fancy, just a quiet scene of a person standing under a tree. But the paper felt worn, as if it had been handled many times. "This was the first time I realized I could do more than just notice things," the kid said. "I drew this years ago, but it didn't make sense to anyone. They said it was just a drawing," glanced at the man. "But everything in it came true later." The man looked at the drawing again, but now with a deeper understanding. "It's not about seeing the future," the kid explained. "It's about seeing what people are trying to hide from themselves." The man exhaled slowly. "I didn't know gifts could work like that," he admitted. "Most don't," the kid replied softly. "But mine does." The kid folded the paper again and placed it gently on the table. "You doubted me," he said. "But it's okay. You're here now." The man looked at him, and for the first time, he didn't see a kid. He saw someone who understood the world in a way he never could. "Thank you," the man whispered. The kid nodded once. The room felt full, not crowded, but meaningful. Two people sitting quietly, learning from each other, changing each other, and that was only the beginning. The sun was lower in the sky that afternoon, casting a warm orange glow through the tall windows of the community center. The kid arrived with slow steps, unsure of what the day would bring. The conversation he had with the millionaire the day before still echoed in his mind. It had been honest, and it had been strange in its own way. He wasn't used to adults speaking to him like that, with respect, with curiosity, with hesitation. It felt new, and it made him think more than he expected. As he stepped inside, he saw a few people already gathered. They smiled at him, though gently, as if they sensed something delicate in the air. He nodded back and placed his notebook on the same table he always used. The room felt familiar, but in his chest there was a quiet fluttering, something like nervousness mixed with hope. A moment later, the door opened again. The millionaire stepped in, but he didn't walk with the same confident strides he had when they first met. His posture was calmer, his expression softer. He carried no folder, no assistants, no signs of business. He looked more like someone visiting an old friend than a powerful man who visited places with a purpose. When he saw the kid, he gave a small, warm smile. "Hey, I'm glad you're here again," he said. The kid nodded. "I said I'd come." The man pulled up a chair and placed it beside the kid instead of across from him. That small gesture alone told the kid that something had changed in the man's heart. "I was thinking," the man began, "about what you said. About seeing things people hide from themselves. I've been wondering what that means for someone like me. I've made so many decisions based on confidence, on believing I knew everything I needed to know. But yesterday showed me I've been missing a lot." The kid listened silently, his fingers brushing the edge of his notebook. "I don't think you're missing things on purpose," the kid said. "Most grown-ups are too busy to slow down. That's all." The man smiled faintly. "Maybe, but I don't want to be the kind of person who walks into a room and doesn't really see the people in it." The kid let those words settle between them. It was strange hearing someone with so much power sound so gentle. "Can I show you something today?" the man asked. The kid blinked, surprised. "Show me." "Yes," the man said, shifting in his seat. "You showed me your world. Maybe I can show you mine, even just a small piece. Something I don't talk about much." The kid didn't move. He just looked at the man with that calm, steady gaze that made adults feel like their words mattered. "I was thinking last night," he said quietly, "and I wrote something down. I don't usually write like this, but I wanted you to see it." He handed the paper to the kid. The kid unfolded it carefully. Inside was a short letter, handwritten with slightly uneven lines. It said, "You reminded me that listening is more powerful than speaking. You reminded me that seeing people is more important than leading people. And you reminded me that strength doesn't come from agit, comes from honesty." The kid read it twice, maybe 3 times. His eyes softened, and the corner of his mouth lifted just a bit. "You wrote this for me?" he asked. "Yes," the man said, "because you changed something in me, and I want you to know that." The kid folded the paper gently, placing it inside his notebook next to the old business card. "I'll keep it," he said quietly. The man nodded, his expression warm. Minutes passed before the kid finally spoke again. "You know," he said, "I used to think gifts only brought trouble. Like people looked at you differently once they saw it. I didn't know it could bring someone into your life instead of pushing them away." The man looked at him with a calm smile. "Your gift didn't bring me here. You did. Your honesty. Your patience. Your courage to speak the truth." The kid lowered his gaze, touched in a way he couldn't put into words. Soon, some staff walked in and began setting up chairs along the wall. The room would be busy in a while, filled with people and noise. But in that small pocket of time, it was just the two of them. "I want to show you something today," the kid said suddenly. The man straightened a little. "What is it?" The kid closed his notebook and held it against his chest. "It's not something I can draw or write. It's something you'll feel." The man's expression grew thoughtful. "I'm ready." The kid took a deep breath, then spoke in a low voice. "You're carrying a worry today. But it's not about business. It's not about me either. It's about someone in your life you feel you've drifted away from." The man's breath caught. "And you're scared." The kid continued gently that if you try to reach out, you'll be rejected. But that person isn't waiting for perfection. They're waiting for you to show up. The millionaire's eyes widened, then softened. He swallowed hard. "You're right," the kid nodded. "Then go to them." "Not tomorrow. Today." The man stared at him with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. "I will," he whispered. The kid smiled small. Sincere, the room had grown brighter now, filled with soft morning warmth. People moved around the edges, arranging papers and chairs. The world was slowly waking up. The man stood, placing a gentle hand on the kid's shoulder. "You changed my life," he said quietly. The kid didn't look up right away. When he did, his eyes were calm. "And you believed in me," he replied. "That changed mine too." They stood there for a long moment, two very different lives now connected in a way neither of them had expected. Then the man nodded, gave one last warm smile, and walked toward the door. The kid watched him go, feeling something peaceful settle inside him, the kind of peace that comes when the past loosens its grip and the future opens gently. He opened his notebook again and wrote a small line at the top of a page. "Some people arrive at the perfect time, even when they think they're late," and for the first time in a long time, the kid felt ready not just to be seen, but to walk beside someone who wanted to understand him. It wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of something better.